was on the wing one day and I was just standing there, walked by, and then before I knew it, a prisoner had been slashed like kind of 6 times in the face.
HMP Kilmarnock is a maximum security prison in East Ayrshire, Scotland. It's home to nearly 700 male prisoners, with crimes that vary from drink driving and theft to serial murder and rape.
It's quite scary. There's a lot of prisoners there you don't really know what they're in for, and you don't know what they could be capable of.
This is Matt from Underworld Uncut. And this week, we're going inside HMP Kilmarnock with former prison officer Greg Doherty.
It depends on, kind of think, the severity of the prisoner as well. Depends what house block you're in as well. There's more kind of fights within the short-term house block. It's more kind of between each other, a disagreement or something like that, and it's just a fight, and it's split up. There is kind of like the odd slashing in that, but it's not if it's house block 1 and they're fighting, then it's more, you'd say it's kind of more serious, because some of them are in for life, so it's not really they're not really caring, so they'll kind of go at the more extreme, so there'll be more stabbings and kind of the fight will be more violence within the fighting, so it's trying to kind of limit that. If you're not there and it's somebody else that's there, and you hear it on your radio that there's a response or an emergency and you need to respond to it, then your adrenaline's going, so you're kind of heightened, ready to go into the situation, and it's kind of trying to, when you get there, you could get there and it could be quite violent, or you could get there and it could be somebody just going to their cell, but your adrenaline's still going, so you're kind of prepared for the worst, try to go for it. So you're always thinking, if I get there and something's happening, this is what I need. You're already putting it through your mind as you're running towards the incident. You're always kind of wary, because again, at any point, anything can happen. Any escalation in violence or anything at all that they don't like can change a situation very quickly. So it's kind of, even though you've got a relationship there, you're hoping the relationship will work, but at times it can be detrimental to yourself as well, because then you're relying on them too much when you really should be relying on yourself and your colleagues. It could be anything from kind of somebody throwing, as I've seen before, somebody throwing some food on the floor, and the kind of pass man's come up and he's like, I need to clean that up. Then before you know it, from there, people smashing plates over each other's head and that as well, and hitting each other, trying to stab each other for just a bit of food going on the floor. So I think within the prison it could be anything. Really, it could be very little, but because of where you are and you're contained in such a small place, it escalates very quickly. I think obviously with drugs within a prison, obviously because they're in a limited space and confined, it does change your behaviours in them, obviously depending on the substance as well. Different substances have a different effect on each prisoner. Some prisoners may become more violent. Again, through if they're getting steroids in as well, a lot of them go to the gym, so let steroids in have that impact of the anger as well. So different things like that as well kind of escalate the violence, depending how the prisoner reacts to the drug as well. So if somebody's not paid the drug debt as well, somebody's came in with drugs and they've not kind of passed them out, they might end up from there as well. There's no kind of limit to it. It kind of be very little to escalation very quickly, just depending on how they're feeling at the time and who's annoyed them at the time. So there's different ways that it's been brought in before, like different substances have been watered down and put through kind of water paints. Then they've got their kid on, it's their kids that's done them pictures and that, and they bring it in and they're just picking the paint off and eating the paint and kind of getting it through that as well. Kind of your heroin that is coming through people inserting it in different areas through banking it, and that's kind of a more prominent way they'll bring it in. So it is through banking it and bringing it in that way. Nowadays it's more through spice and your legal highs, where people are kind of out of control, so the violence would kind of escalate then. But if it was something like heroin and that, and they'd kind of just sit in their own cells, and then when they kind of get involved in violence, unless other people wanted some, and then they'd kind of come in and try and take it, the violence would escalate from there. There's probably more drugs in the prison than there is outside. Obviously, prisoners obviously get all this time, so they get more creative, obviously with their peers outside, and the different way of bringing it in. So they continue to just kind of like 2 steps ahead, if you want to put it like that, and you're still on the catch up every time. So within the prison estate, there is a hierarchy, obviously depending on the prisoner. Obviously, people might know the prisoner from outside, and they've kind of been quite high up in the food chain, if you want to put it like that. So even in prison, they're still there. So again, bringing it back to, it could be family feuds from outside. So there's different families outside that fight. So when they're in the prison, they're still there kind of at the top of the food chain. So they kind of decide what's happening within it as well. If there's any drugs being brought in, or who they're going to, or if somebody's going to get assaulted, and where and when, they'll kind of decide what's happening then. So it is from there. There always is, obviously, people that then align themselves with individuals that are within that kind of frame as well. So if they're in the kind of top of the food chain, or our younger prisoners are trying to align themselves with them, so they're more kind of, even though they're saying they're not at the top of the food chain, but they're still in that group, so they're still above everybody else. So trying to put themselves in there, they might be kind of be enforcers for that person and do all the kind of work that they need to do, and then the person at the top kind of just saunters on by without ever getting their hands dirty. Within the prison, there is that scenario. If you're in a kind of group, then you're there and you've built that strong group, so then if anything happens, then you all work together. So it is, and if you do something wrong to one of them, then there's a chance that you all get assaulted by the rest of them. And if you're out with that gang, then the chances are you'll need to go protection, because they'll put a debt on your head for somebody to do something to you. Most of the time, they don't fight as gangs. It's usually one-on-one, and the kind of other people just kind of surround it, so other people can't get involved. But more or less, when staff come, depending on who the fight's between, they may keep going. If not, if they're quite violent prisoners, then they'll continue to go, and staff will need to split it up, and that's kind of more when more people get injured as well within it. But no, most of the time, if there's something going to happen, then they'll fight within a cell so staff can't see. And as I always said, if they're fighting within the hall, then they want staff to split it up. There's one, I think it was a young person, obviously, well, a prisoner, we were going up the stairs, and he's tried to barge into me, and we fell off the stairs together, but then he'd end up on top of me, I think. But I've kind of managed to get myself round, and if it wasn't for other prisoners telling other prisoners to stay out, then I'd probably have had a bit of a beating. But it felt a bit of time for other staff to then come. I mean, even though they're saying it's like 30 seconds, it feels like about 5 minutes. So it does. I think sometimes that's the biggest thing. It's unpredictable, and certain things can happen very quickly. Before you know it, you're walking up a set of stairs, and then next thing you know, you're on the ground trying to restrain a prisoner. I think there's kind of a couple from, I was on the wing one day and I was just standing there, walked by, and then before I knew it, a prisoner had been slashed like kind of 6 times in the face. And because of the way they do it in the prison, obviously it's the toothbrush with the like 3 razors into it, so then you kind of sew it up, which makes it harder as well. So then you always end up with the scars on the face. There was an incident within the prison gym where a prisoner was hit over the head with a weight, and then attacked by other prisoners with other weights as well, which is also the intention was, I think, was to kill him. There is violence against staff. There was one where kind of prisoners attacked staff within the wing and kind of gave them a bit of a kind of sore face. One day, also, I was working within another wing, and also the personal alarm went off. So we responded to it. We got onto the wing and kind of had a commotion upstairs. So we went upstairs, and there were 7 prisoners attacking 2 staff members. The staff were kind of lying on the ground, kind of curled up, obviously trying to protect themselves. Once we got there, we kind of got the prisoners away, then taken the staff out. Some of them, one of the staff had a kind of burst nose and black eye, and the other one had a burst lip. Prisoners it can escalate very quickly, depending on what staff's on, really, and who they don't like. They're there for a reason. They've done violence somewhere, so you understand that they can do this again. So again, it's trying to work with them to get an understanding of why and how they got to that position in the first place, and try to move them on from there. I mean, some of them don't want to move on, and that's just prison's a life, but some of them do want to move on, some of them do want to get out. So it's trying to help them move on from there, even though you know what they are capable of, but you're there as a prison officer to try and support them as well and try and help them. They make different things out of plastic, they just sharpen them in their cells. They've also got the luxury of having pool cues there as well, and pool balls which they'll put into socks that see that swing about as well. They've got a lot of things within their cells as well, from their TVs to using their kettle and putting sugar in it as well. So it's kind of there's not a limit in what they can do. They'll kind of utilise anything they've got at all. The get railers provided, obviously, they're adults, so you're hoping that they'll use them for the purpose of shaving. But again, some of them will use them for the purpose of making weapons. Prison can be a dangerous place for other prisoners because you're put in a situation where there's no escape route. So if you've involved yourself in something, you can't just walk away. You're there and there's no escaping it. So you either need to deal with the situation in front of you or else violence is there to come towards you. So it's again back to that fight or flight. You could need to fight your way out of something, which then could have a detrimental effect on what violence you portray on other people. Because you end up in the prison longer. It's just, for a prison guard to assess the risk again, it's more your perception of it. So for every individual it's different. So what I see the risk is maybe different from what somebody else sees the risk. But I think the experience you get, you kind of pick up different wee things. So the difference in how the wing is and how quiet it may be or how busy it might be can be depending on if something may happen or something's happening. Because sometimes if there's more prisoners out, they're kind of covering something up. So there may be people fighting in a cell, so it's kind of try to determine how you work that as well. So it's trying to work with prisoners as well. So if you've got a relationship with them, some of them, as they say, fly grassing, if you want to put it like that, will kind of tell you on the passing what's happening. Again, if there is an incident going to happen, they're wanting to start a riot, prisoners will come up and tell you that you need to leave the hall because this is what we're going to do. And because there's only 2 of you there, you kind of move towards the doors because once they go, there's no really kind of stopping them because they overpower you, but you can't really press your personal alarm until something happens because you could be pulling staff on for a personal alarm for something they may have organised for another house or another wing. So it may just be trying to deter you or kind of divert you to something else that's not happening. For people who do kind of escalate their violence, put them in segregation or transfer them to another prison as well, it's quite good. It's an avenue you can go if there is within a hall, a wing. So many people want a kind of, a wing that has so many bigger figures on it that maybe try to enforce other wings to do something. So it's just kind of take name out, maybe split name up and put them in different prisons as well and kind of lowers their power within the wing as well. Then it hopefully kind of helps other prisoners realise they don't have to get involved in violence all the time. So it's kind of trying to work with them or remove the trigger, the targets out of the way as well. Yeah, there is times within the prison, inmate, obviously prisoners will try and bribe staff or coerce staff into bringing stuff in. Again, it will start from minimum wee things like bringing a magazine or a newspaper. Then from there, they'll try and build it up and try to bring in different things like a mobile phone or drugs, or just try and get information of what's maybe happening in the prison as well. And it happens quite a lot, and it's kind of more people who will ask you that's in prison for kind of offences that's through drugs or murder that are still trying to run their empires outside, really, if you want to put it like that. The younger staff are more at risk, as I say, is because it's easier to kind of manipulate them. They've not got the same life skills as staff that's been there for years and understand what prisoners are trying to do and how they're trying to interact with them. So it's kind of try to teach them that and show them that this may happen. So when they're doing training that now, I think that they bring that into the training to try and show them. And I think a lot of the time as well, some staff come from areas that prisoners are from, so they know them. So it's kind of, they may have met them in a party before, so they might know them, and it's easier to kind of talk to them and manipulate them into bringing stuff in. And I think obviously at the time, money's quite good. Money's quite good when obviously if they offer you money, it might be what you're looking for at the time as well. For lowering the violence in prison is having kind of good rehabilitation. Again, working through their education, getting them qualifications, good work placements within the prison as well, giving them skills. Because good mental health team, obviously, so that prisoners there who have got mental health issues can be seen and obviously worked through as well. A good risk management team through doing programme work with prisoners and try to obviously reduce how they see the outlook in life and how, if they respond to a situation, what they could do differently. So within the prisons, they'll do different courses within the prisons as well to try and help them realise this and different ways they can go about their life instead of being involved in the violence. I think it was 14 cells, and in them they had two a silent cell and a special cell, which were both cameras in them as well, and that was for prisoners who were self-harming quite a lot as well, that had to be overseen quite a lot as well, violent prisoners as well, people that come in with drugs secreted within themselves as well. The other cells were, again, the rest of the cells were for other prisoners as well, who, again, have come down from the wings and have been put in segregation. It's just a straight line, so it was, so the cells were in line. You could see, they could talk to each other under the doors and that as well, or just shout at each other, and they had their own separate shower area and phone area, and only one prisoner was out at a time. When they're in the seg, they'd only have one prisoner out at a time, there'd always be 3 staff there at all times. They had their own wee exercise yard, which was about 14 feet by 10 feet, which was a wee square bit, fence bit, where they'd go out there and they'd do their hours exercise as well. They'd only have an hour out a day really, exercise, and then they'd be brought in, they'd have their phone call or a shower, but that's the only time they'd be out themselves. Prisons can be a dangerous place to work depending on the prisoners as well you're working with and the relationship you've got with them. If you've not got a relationship and you are quite abrupt, the violence could then be portrayed upon you, It could act out towards you because you're not trying to help them. But then if you build the relationships, then it's hoped that does reduce it. But at times obviously it's more violence on prisoners than is prisoners on staff. It's all maximum security, so it's a closed prison, so it's always there. There's nobody gets out and in. They are getting out and then it's escorted by secure transport. But it is obviously within your house block 1, it's your long-term prisoners, so from anything from 4 years to a life sentence as well. So it is maximum security. It could be anything from a driving charge to murder and rape. So it is, so it depend on the sentence as well, depending what house block they're in as well. Within the prison, there's also all different facilities. You've got different work sheds, education. Within the wings as well, you've got their shower blocks. They've got their server area as well, they've got the exercise yard, they've got their tables. They brought in that was a pinpoint system as well, where they can get up and use their fingerprint and then their number to put money on their phone and order their menu, because before it used to be cards and people would just come and take people's cards off them. So they try to make it a bit safer and a bit better for prisoners as well. Obviously the newer prisons that they've built now, there's within their cells they've got a shower in their cell as well, and over COVID they got phones in their cells as well, so made it a bit easier as well for prisoners. Coming to prison for the first time is quite intimidating, because you're not used to it, you don't know what you're expecting. And going in, it is very large, and there's obviously all different areas. Then going onto the wings, seeing the prisoners for the first time, you don't realise how many prisoners there are at a time. Then you go in and there's like 70 odd prisoners, and you're like, well, it's a bit overwhelming. I think the biggest thing is also when you initially just get in as well, it's something surreal, if you want to put it like that, because you walk in, you need to take your boots off, your belts off, you put it through the metal detector, and then you get through the scanner as well. You get checked from there, then depending on, so you get a pat down as well. There is a iona scan thing there as well, where they can check your hands for any substances. So it's something that you're not used to in life. Then you walk in there and it's something that's very different. Obviously the more you go in, the more you get used to it. You get through, obviously the prison's moved on, you get your keys and that, but when you walking up towards the halls, it's very quiet, especially depending what shift you're on as well. If it's your early shift, it's quiet because everybody's still in bed and it's just start a shift. And you go up, you go into the hall, and it's you'll get your handover book there, you're looking at it, but it's very, you're just looking at the hall, it's quite spacious. Your kind of tails down the middle. It's quite weird, if you want to put it at the start, because it's kind of your first couple of shifts, and then when the prisoners come out, it is quite intimidating when you initially start, because you're not really used to what you're expecting. So as you're kind of trying to work it that, as you always say, try to build relationships with prisoners and try and see how their aspect of life is, because they're the ones they're locked up, so you're trying to work out how they are. So it's kind of trying to get them to work with you. But it's kind of, when you open the doors, there's a kind of sweaty smell, if you want to put it like that, when they all get up in the morning before they go for their showers. It's a lot of the kind of banging of doors. Really is a lot of it, if you're locking a door, so you're pulling the door shut and you're locking it over with your keys. So your bundle of keys as well, it's always attached to you. So it's kind of more, especially in the morning when you're doing your checks and all that, it's the keys and the doors, it's kind of the biggest thing you kind of hear all the time. For HMP Kilmarnock, you've got 2 different house blocks, which is 8 wings, and each wing holds 64 cells, which, depending on what house block you're in, depending on how many prisoners you've got in each wing. For short-term wing, it's some cells are doubled up, so you have 2 prisoners in each cell. So you always have the risk in the back of your head that something may happen, but it's about trying to obviously deal with yourself and how you'd react to it. So you always know there's going to be a risk that something may happen to you, or something may happen when you're there, or you may get injured or assaulted while dealing with something. But you kind of, the more that you kind of experience, you kind of know that's going to happen. But at the start, it's very kind of, I don't know if I want to do this. But then you speak to staff who then kind of reinforce the positives. So then it's just going from there. For them, it's kind of getting up in the morning, getting ready for going down to work, their work placement. So depending on what work placement they're in as well, going down there, if they've got medication to get, coming out and getting their medication as well, going down to work and kind of really sitting in their shed doing their work until they're heading back up. So at times it can be quite monotonous and boring for them, because it's the same thing every day, and it's, again, trying to work better for them. So sometimes they get bored, and that's why things happen. More or less try to get them to kind of just comply, so they kind of just get on with it, and some are just happy to be there, because some of them don't have a home or anything outside, so they're happy to be in the prison. Usually it was 2 staff to 60 odd prisoners. When Berlin was changing, and we did end up increasing the prisoners, it was 3 staff to 100 prisoners. So they tried to say it was a ratio of 1 to 25, but at times when you're on the wing it was like 3 to 100, depending on who was there. For the ratio of prisoners to staff as well, at times it was quite high, so it is quite worrying, because if something was happening, then there's only 3 years there. There's not really much you can do, apart from kind of move back. If they decide they're all going to do something at one time, you kind of move back and kind of then get other staff to come and get involved first before you do anything. Your early shift consisted of get up in the morning and, again, doing your roll count check for make sure all the prisoners are there, then getting them up, getting them their medication as well, and then kind of from 8 o'clock to 8:30, getting them all down to their work sheds. From there, once they're all away, then you're kind of locking up the other prisoners that are there. Then from there you're doing it was called your LBBs at the time, so it was a kind of fabrication check, which are locks, bolts and bars, where you're going in and kind of checking the fabrication in the cell, make sure it's alright, and make sure there's nothing broken. If anything's broken, kind of try to get it fixed and replaced. Getting at the time you'd pass men as well, you'd get them out, kind of mop and do it floors, get the other ones to do the laundry. Then kind of in your early shift you can do a spot check, so you'd do a kind of cell search on just a random person, so you'd get a cell number up from security. It was just random every day, and they'd just tell you, right, that's who your cell search is going to be today, go down, get them up, do your cell search, then get them back down to work again, bring them back up for the route back up for lunch at 12. Again, they'll come back up again, you lock everybody back up again, do your roll count again to make sure there's nobody missing, then open them back up for the lunch, and from there you've also got your exercise yard to do as well between 1 and 2, and then you've also got the meal to be given out as well. So it was kind of, your early shift was kind of the busier shift, so it was try to get everything done for the back shift coming on at 1:15. So it was, and your back shift would kind of, again, just getting them back down to work at 2 o'clock, then back up kind of 4:30, 5, or 5 o'clock, 5:30, back up again, lock them up again to do your roll count again, then back out for dinner. Then from there at the time, they were kind of, that was the prisoners out until 10:15. So that time you're kind of just wandering about the wing, interacting with prisoners, maybe having a game of pool, game of snooker, cards, kind of just overseeing any problems that's there, if there is anything there as well. If there's any visits happening, getting them down to the visits. Any telephone calls that they might need. So your night shift was kind of, all the prisoners will be locked up really before you get in. Again, it's going round each wing, you go round each wing, there are 2 on night shift, you go round each wing, you check all the doors to make sure they're secure. And again, from there it's kind of, if you get any suicide watches, you're checking them on the time limit that they're required for as well. But you've also got to do, it's a pegging, it's called. And you go around each wing and you're kind of putting your fob on 2 points within each wing. You do that twice an hour as well as doing your kind of suicide watches as well. But then, again, dealing with anything out with that's required. But it was kind of quiet, if you want to put it like that. I mean, kind of come 11:30, most prisoners were sleeping. So it was kind of quiet, it was good. With some easy shifts. I think sometimes it's, as you say, it's a consistency of staff as well. When you're working, it's good when you've got 2 experienced staff members on, but then if you're on yourself and then you get a new member of staff, it's quite difficult because then you're trying to teach them and watch the prisoner at the same time. So I find it kind of overwhelming, try to kind of do it all at once yourself as well. Then your experienced staff can get moved to different wings, so then you're kind of trying to deal with it, and you're hoping that if anything happens, like instant-wise, any fights or anything happens, then the person who's with you will then get involved or be there behind your back to make sure that you're supported. Sometimes it happens, sometimes they kind of get that kind of deer in the headlights. Let's try to then deal with that as well, so then you're involved in an instant and your co-pilot's kind of still standing there waiting to move. I think the biggest thing is, because then you're trying to make sure everything's alright and you're hoping that there are prisoners within the hall or the wing don't get involved. So it is. So you're kind of trying to watch for your safety and the security, everything else within it. I think a lot as well is obviously seeing prisoners do well. I mean, I think when you get some of them that go to education and they're getting qualifications, they're making plans of what they're going to do when they get out. So it's kind of try to oversee that and kind of look at what you've done and what you've tried to help them with. So even try to work with them through social skills and that, because some of them are kind of very, not the best at interacting. So it's try to work with them there as well, try to give them better social skills and how they're going to deal with situations out with the prison. Instead of getting themselves involved back in different negative behaviours, it's try to, what they might be able to do if they're in that position, and seeing the positive then when you get out, that you maybe see them outside and they're doing well. The main thing that could be improved within the prison system is the rehabilitation of prisoners. Obviously different courses, different outlets that they can have when they're leaving prison. I get different through care projects and stuff like that. Just try to get them involved in something different when they're leaving. Because most of the times when they leave the prison, they're just out and that's them away. And they go and just go back to their normal daily routine. So try to have different outlets out there for them to help them. Even though they've got them in the prison, they'll do all the different courses and different stuff within the prison. It's try to bridge that link when they're leaving. So it is, to try and help them when they get out. I think working within the prison, it was different for me, because every day, again, I think more the first 6 months was quite difficult, because you were quite anxious, you didn't really know what was happening, but you're kind of trying to get used to the routines and also used to the prisoners. But then after that, you kind of just got on with it. It's like a day-to-day thing, and it's just part of your life. It's like going to your job 9 to 5, you kind of just got on with it. There was quite a high turnover, there were new staff coming in. There were, younger people coming into to work in the prison, which at times works, but at times doesn't work, because I mean, you can have a prisoner in there who's like 50 odds and somebody coming in at 21 try to tell them what to do, and they're not really kind of for taking that. So it is, I think, it's kind of difficulty with it. Prisons work for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. Getting into prison can then, for some prisoners, kind of be detrimental to them because they could be involved in different things. They end up being involved with other people that shouldn't. They've probably never been the same path with before within the community. Some people might end up in there, as I said before, through just driving charges, and before you know it, they're getting involved in drugs and violent behaviour, which they never do in the community, which then breaks up their relationships outside as well. So for some people it is detrimental to them, but for some people then there has to be somewhere for to put violent people to be managed. So it's kind of 50-50 for some.
Thank you for watching this interview with Greg Doherty about what it's really like to work inside HMP Kilmarnock. For more stories from Britain's underworld, from reformed criminals to notorious gangsters, make sure to like, subscribe and hype. This is Matt from Underworld Uncut. We'll see you next time.